with reigning production vehicle champions Api Reinicke and Robin Houghton out in a new factory Toyota Land Cruiser.
Ons het 'n nuwe voertuig, 'n totale nuwe voertuig gebou. Ons het so 'n bietjie meer krag op die enjin gekry, 'n klein bietjie meer. En so 'n klein bietjie verandering op die suspensie gemaak. Dit kom maar so met die jare, verander jy hier en jy verander daar en op die ou end dan wen jy so 'n bietjies. Maar ons sien baie uit na die seisoen. Dit was verlede jaar het ons 'n taai seisoen gehad. Dit was 'n groot kompetisie tot op die laaste oomblik en ek dink van die jaar gaan dit dieselfde wees of nog taaier. So ons sal van die begin af met mening moet inklim om die titel te verdedig.
Motor racing in any shape or form is all about winning. The Shell Honda racing team has put together a powerful squad for the 1997 season, with beating the opposition the only priority for the team.
This season we're definitely here to win. I mean, with our sponsors, the big involvement from Honda and Shell, they want nothing less than wins, basically. Manufacturers and overall victories, class victories as well. Last year we had our problems. We had a lot of injuries to the team. Obviously the guys with the new bikes, the Hondas are very, very powerful bikes. I think this year is going to be very different. The guys have got used to the product and we can expect, we're here to win. We're not here to come second anymore.
A new season often sees old campaigners back in harness, with John Lambert a case in point at Tarkastad.
Well, you know what it's like. You've got to take a sabbatical now and again just to get back into the mood for off-road racing. It takes a lot of preparation on the car to prepare a car. I've spent a lot of time and effort preparing the car, and yesterday the car performed, so I hope it keep it together today.
A new season also brings fresh aims and expectations for sponsored teams and privateers who hope to emerge as serious challengers for championships.
Ek was laas al derde geëindig saam met Willie. Hierdie jaar moet ons maar net 'n bietjie harder probeer. 'n Bietjie ouens opvang. That's all.
The Queen Motorspace event opened with a time trial to determine start positions for Racing Section 1, with a route in and around Tarkastad virgin territory for most of the competitors. The time trial produced few surprises in the motorcycle, quad and car categories, with familiar names up front. With everyone hoping to get a good start to the season, the scene was set for an interesting event. First car away was the raceco of Stanley Illman and Franz Stangl, with special vehicles taking 9 of the top 10 positions in the time trial. Illman and Stangl were followed away by John Lambert and Hendrik Fourie in the Digidor car. It was a promising start to Lambert's return to off-road racing, with former champions Bux Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer the third car away in the lubrication equipment raceco. Carolyn and Scholthammer were followed by 1994 champions Herman and Karl-Heinz Sulwart in another raceco, and reigning special vehicle champions Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. The first of the production vehicles to come under starters' orders was the Toyota Land Cruiser of Api Reinicke and Robin Houghton, with teammates Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek the second of the production vehicle's entries in 12th place after the time trial. Coetzee and Leek were out in the aging Castrol Toyota Hilux, affectionately known as Fred, while waiting for their new Hilux double cab to be completed. Long-distance off-road racing always produces a contrast in styles and tactical approaches. Some crews like to get on the gas and mount a charge from the word go, with the Sulwarts falling firmly into this category. Others, like the Czepeks, prefer to play a waiting game and gradually wear down the opposition. Both strategies have their pros and cons, with the Czepeks, the reigning special vehicle champions in the V Motors raceco, coming under pressure from Derek Pinoy and Craig Jackson, who are among the off-road chargers. Pinoy and Jackson were pushing hard in the quick-fit raceco, with former champion Greg Harvey running strongly in the early stages in the Queen Motorspace raceco. In front of the production vehicle category, reigning champions Api Reinicke and Robin Houghton in the Toyota Land Cruiser were in the thick of the battle, going on amongst the special vehicles. With 9 South African championships between them, Reinicke and Houghton are seasoned off-road campaigners and were comfortably ahead of the production vehicle class. Behind the pair, another seasoned combination, Nardus Alberts and Pieter Mathieu in the Rapsa raceco, were looking to move up a place or two, with Marius Borain, the first of the single-seaters in the beautifully turned-out little Mighty Mag, intent on making up ground on the Czepeks, who were leading Class B in the special vehicle category. Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux have mountains of rally and off-road experience, but had plenty of ground to make up on Reineke and Houghton. Fred was going like a train in the early stages, with Coetzee and Leek holding off challenges from Richard Carolyn in the lubrication equipment single-seater, and Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne, who were giving the unusual-looking Motortech Jimco its South African debut. For others, matters were not going that smoothly, but there are always good Samaritans to be found in an off-road race. When Colin and Derek Frankenberg got bogged down in thick mud in the Forsdix Range Rover, the Birkin brothers in the Toyota Hilux Turbo Diesel came to the rescue to haul them onto firmer ground. For the Birkins and the Frankenbergs, the incident cost them time. A couple of cars, including the Love Potty and Labuskachny Gerber combinations, grabbed the opportunity to pick up a place or two. At the front of the quad field, it was no surprise to see Lichtenberg dairy farmer Vickers van Deventer out in front on the Jojo Tank's Yamaha Banshee. Van Deventer has dominated South African quad racing in recent years, but was being chased all the way by a determined Christo van der Merwe on the Johannesburg Yamaha Banshee. Skalk Burger on the Murdoch's Yamaha Banshee was in close contact with Van Deventer and van der Merwe, with a good battle brewing between the trio. At the front of the car field, it was the end of the road for race leaders Stanley Illman and Franz Stangl.
We were leading very nicely and the car was going exceptionally well. We had problems with the brakes yesterday already, and we tried to repair them, but it didn't last long. So we had no brakes, so we just had to take it easy, and then we just pulled out after 100 kilometers.
Away 90 minutes after the cars, and there were no surprises at the front of the field. The incomparable Alfie Cox was busy asserting his superiority on the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM, with Alex Vowles on the Anthelex Dairy KTM running second to the Italian and leading the 250 class. Vowles was being chased by Free Stater Gray McLachlan on the first of the Shell Honda entries, with Springbok Errol Dalton fourth on the road and second in the 500 class on the big Shell Honda. Reigning 200 class champion Rian van Niekerk had picked up a place or two early on and was running fifth overall and first in class on the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM. After a disappointing time trial, motocross Springbok Gary Peterson was trying to make up for lost ground on the Brasco Kawasaki. The leading motorcycles had by this time caught the cars running in midfield, with Cliff Barker and Malcolm Hubert in the Land Rover now under attack from Alan Julian on another of the Shell Hondas. The bike race was developing into a pattern with everyone chasing Alfie Cox, but riders couldn't complain about a lack of variety when it came to terrain. Former motocrosser Ryan Hunt was busy negotiating a tricky section littered with rocks on his Shell Honda, and ahead of him, former champion Richard Manning was building up a head of steam on the Yamaha on a quicker section of the course. Manning's return to off-road racing sees him running in the 250 class this season on his Shell Yamaha. There was also plenty of variety where the cars were concerned, and when it comes to river crossings, the best laid plans of many an off-roader have come unstuck. Race leaders John Lambert and Hendrik Fourie decided on the bold approach in the Digidor, but they lost their battle when the motor expired on the other side of the crossing. Lambert and Fourie were still immobile when Frans Čepek Sr. and Jr. arrived on the scene. A thoughtful farmer had provided the tractor to haul the unwary out of trouble, and Lambert and Fourie were his first customers. The Čepeks are not ones to take unnecessary risks, and while the Digidor was being towed out of the crossing, the V Motors Raceco pair tiptoed through the obstacle. No problems for the Čepeks, and no problems either for Nardus Alberts and Peter Mathieu in the Rapsa Raceco. Alberts and Mathieu took a slightly more aggressive approach, but the end result was the same as for the Čepeks. While the unfortunate Lambert and Fourie waited for the Digidor's electrics to dry out, the Čepeks and the Alberts-Mathieu combination moved into first and second on the road. An itsy-bitsy little stream wasn't going to present problems for a Toyota Land Cruiser, and production vehicle leaders R.P. Reineke and Robin Houghton sailed through without any problems. Reineke and Houghton were now fourth on the road and challenging for overall honours. Marius Borein had other problems on his mind, with a little Mighty Mag's left front suspension showing distinct signs of wear and tear. Bahrain was thinking only of the fuel halt and some hasty running repairs and was being rapidly hauled in by the Sulwald brothers. Next to fall foul of the water hazard was the Olivier van der Venter combination in the Queen Motorspace Raceco. The pair were third in Class B behind the Chepex and Bahrain, but also had to call on the services of the tractor to extricate them from a spot of bother. Behind Olivier and van der Venter, other competitors were lining up to take their turn at crossing the stream. While the tractor was doing its stuff for Olivier and van der Venter, the big single-seater lubrication equipment Raceco, driven by Richard Carolyn, made light work of the crossing. And, unlike its sister car, there were no problems for the Harvey-Stone combination in the second of the Queen Motorspace Racecos. A good scrap was developing in Class E between the Birkin brothers, who were closing in on Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk. Neither Toyota Hilux was troubled by the water, with the Toyotas running in tandem and only seconds separating them. The quad field, it was still Wickers van Deventer on the Jojo Tank's Yamaha Blaster who was setting the pace. The undisputed king of quad racing in South Africa, the diminutive Van Deventer wasn't being allowed to have matters all his own way. Christo van der Merwe on the Johannesburg Yamaha Banshee was still in hot pursuit and wasn't letting Van Deventer get away from him. Also going well were the Breckel brothers, Paul on the Philips Rotax and Mark on the Brasco Yamaha Banshee. The Breckels still had enough energy to wave at our cameraman. The fifth rider in the quad equation was Schalk Burger, who was hanging in there on the Murdoch's Yamaha Banshee. Burger had his hands full though, with Grant Watkins chasing after him in the Gecko, running at the back of the Class B field. It was tough going for the quad brigade. These motorized bucking Broncos are not the easiest machines in the world to ride and require a combination of superb fitness, strength and concentration. Competitors were looking forward to a few minutes respite at the refuel point where, as always, there was plenty of activity.